Hello everyone out there in Hello everyone out there in internet land. I am Robin Fierce and thank you for joining me for another video. It's been a while, but hey, we are here. Today I'm gonna show you how I did this amazing eye, and we're gonna have a little bit of a chat. Now, you know, when you're a kid and your mom or your dad is always telling you, like, hey, you need to clean up your space, you need to clean up your room, you need to clean up after yourself. You know it's the right thing to do, but you still don't do it anyway. Use that example when you think about Black Lives Matter. We're your mom, and we're trying to get you to do the right thing. We need you to grow the up. Okay, so I got my base done. I am baking. And I have my brows and I primed my eyes. Can I just say, one of my favorite podcasts is Nicole Byers' Why Won't You Date Me? And listening to her while trying to do my eyebrows and make sure that they're straight and not laugh is one of the hardest things that I could possibly do. I don't know why I do it, but you know what? We love a good podcast. So right now I'm baking with the Anastasia loose baking powder. I use a combination of banana, which is almost out, and the translucent one. I just leave that there and I'll add a little bit more while I do my eyeshadow. And I prime my eyes with the NARS Soft Matte Complete Concealer. This one is in shade Light 1. I really love this concealer. Like, it has a nice matte finish, like the name says, and like it's so full coverage that it's perfect to help cover whatever might not have gotten covered on the brows. And because it's matte, it's great to use as like an eye primer. So we're gonna get into this look and get into the conversation. We're gonna be using two different palettes. We're gonna use the Anastasia Alyssa Edwards palette and the Morphe, which one is this? The 35O palette for our transition colors. With all the things that are happening, I don't really think of myself as like an activist, more of just a person that is for what is right. Like, there are so many things that just make sense to me on like how we should behave and how we should treat other people. We don't do that for some reason, and I really don't understand why. It's just doesn't make sense. First of all, don't judge me. I've had this palette a very long time. Yes, I did break it, but whatever. We're gonna go in with this color right here. We're going to trace the shape that we want with this first, and it's also gonna be our transition color, and just circular motions. Like, the behaviors towards people of color, and specifically Black people of color, doesn't make sense. And I'm for what's right applies to more than just Black people. It applies to everybody if they're being done wrong. Don't be afraid to dip back in when you need to dip back in. One thing I will say is I like to tap down on my brush so the powder goes into it, more of a tap on the side, because I feel like that's such a waste of product. We are gonna pull this shape up, kind of following what I did with the brow. And I like to bring the transition color over into where my nose contour would be, so it like blends a little bit better. I do have hooded eyes, so sometimes the shadow doesn't reach, so I just have to do like a little bit of a pull and go from there. So that's pretty much the shape that we're going for. We're gonna do more things to it, but we'll do that as we go. I feel like with the Black Lives Matter movement and the riots and stuff that are going on right now, if you don't understand it, we just need to get like a little bit of perspective, just like a little bit. Imagine how you feel when someone is doing wrong by someone that you really care about, like family member or anything like that. Like, take aside the fact that people of color are getting their lives cut short. Like, just think about if someone did something wrong to someone that you cared about, something that you perceived as wrong or inappropriate to someone that you love. Like, some of you Karens can't even handle Stop and Shop employees telling you to stand 6 feet away from them in these corona times for their and your safety. Like, imagine being put in a place where you fear for your life or the life of your loved ones. You would just be like, this is ridiculous. And you call the manager. On a fluffy pencil brush, I'm gonna take that same color and just dust it underneath. And actually, before I do that, I'm going to put like a little bit more baking powder under here so it catches anything that might fall out, and I can just dust it away. As people, like at a certain point, you need a release. This whole thing is kind of like we're a balloon, and you're blowing air into it, and the balloon is already full past the point where it's good enough to like float and be like a cute little bouncy balloon, and you're still blowing air into it, and at a certain point it's going to pop, it's going to burst, it's going to explode in your face. And I don't understand how you can be shocked and surprised when it does do that. I truly don't get how some of you don't at this point understand the severity of the situation or even the point that we're trying to make. I'm gonna take some of Jet and just put it on my lid area because I do want this look to be really dark. I want the black to stand out. So I'm gonna take it on a little fluffy brush and just brush it on my lid. Through all the ways that we protest to show and try to make you aware of what we mean, people sometimes feel like they don't have a choice, like they have to do something to be heard, and we aren't being heard. Like, we keep saying the same things over and over again, and it just goes in one ear and out the other, if it even gets to an ear. Part of the reason why I wanted to do the gray part first is so that you kind of have a shape to follow when you're placing the cream, and I feel like it's just a little bit easier to do it when you have a little bit of a guide. And also, we're going to go over it with shadow too, so don't forget about that. Sometimes I find it easier to blend out creams when you're using like a brush and your finger, because you know we have fingers for more than extracurricular activity. So this part doesn't have to be perfect as long as it's mostly blended, because we're gonna go over it with some shadow later. If you did use your finger, just make sure you're careful and you wipe it off, because you don't want to get what's on your finger on the rest of your face. And just for quickness, I'm gonna use a flat brush with the black from the Anastasia Beverly Hills. It's called Beast! And I'm just gonna go in right over where I placed that cream from earlier. If people listened to us when we were silently protesting or peacefully protesting, then others wouldn't feel the need to necessarily get more rowdy with their protests, for lack of a better word. Like, look at like Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. Martin Luther King came around and was really prevalent starting in, I believe, 1955. And Malcolm X came in the 60s. Do you think there would have been a need or a reason for Malcolm X to take his eye for an eye approach if people were listening to the more peaceful version of what he was saying that was coming from Martin Luther King? And look, I'm not a historian, and I don't claim to know what has happened in every single movement through every single era, but what I do know is both approaches I feel like have happened throughout all of time. The more peaceful way of doing it, but also the more rowdy way of doing it, that people seem to not like after the peaceful way have been tried many, many times. And don't confuse me, I'm not saying that one is right, one is wrong. I'm just presenting them both to you. Just like I'm presenting the sickening to become eye. And speaking of this eye, with the same beast from the Anastasia Alyssa Edwards palette, I'm gonna take domed-ish, flat, fluffy brush. I'm really bad with describing brushes. And take that right underneath also. And I'm going to pat and do circular motions as well. And you want to make sure what you did at the top connects with what you did at the bottom as well. And you know, a lot of people's argument in opposition of Black Lives Matter is like, well, what about black on black crime? That isn't a factor in this, because every single group of people, they have their own self-inflicted crimes. That's not the question here. And that isn't something that we're condoning either way. When our Caucasian counterparts are arrested peacefully, what's not taken into consideration at all, and doesn't need to be, is the fact that, hey, y'all have some crime that is self-inflicted between each other. And I'm not saying that police brutality doesn't happen to white people. I'm saying that it happens more and at an unacceptable level to people of color. And the fact that we are rooting and fighting for the fact that we are people and our lives do matter, the fact that black on black crime happens isn't a factor in that. The same way white on white crime, Asian on Asian crime, Indian on Indian crime, whatever your race is, crime on crime, that's not what we're saying. We're not even defending crime or defending the fact that some black people should be arrested or should be taken into custody for crimes. We're not saying that. We're saying that why is it that someone of a different ethnic persuasion or someone who's white can be taken in for the same crime peacefully and still live to see their family? So black on black crime isn't and should not be a part of your rebuttal, which you shouldn't have in the first place, I feel like. So on the eye, once you get your black laid down on top of the cream how you wanted it, you can just kind of go back and forth and blend that line between the crease color that you did earlier and blend that line and shape it how you want it between the transition color and the actual lid color. And then what we want to do is go in with that same brush from earlier, dip into that same shadow, and we're just going to soften those edges even more. And just with the edge of this brush is pretty much what I'm using to blend that out. You could also actually use a more flat brush, which would probably be easier, but you know what? It's fine. This is the one I'm using. Touch up the black if you feel you need to. I don't know what to do. In other news, if you need something to distract you, Lady Gaga's album was really good. Okay, so now that the top part is pretty much where I want it, I'm gonna clean off the brush I used to do the bottom part of my eye and take a little bit of that same transition color and just pat it to soften the black under the eye. And you know, with stuff like this, it's really a going back and forth process. And I'm ever so slightly bringing up the black into where we did the crease color, meeting the brow and the nose contour. So we're gonna take a little bit of NYX liquid white liner to this look as well. And with this, you kind of just have to have faith in yourself and just go, or it's not going to come out how you want it to. If you need to, put a little finger on the face as long as there's no product on it. What I like about this liner too is it doesn't pick up the color that's underneath when I'm putting it down. So for cleanup, I like to take a really small, thin, rounded brush, and that's what I'm gonna use to clean up the line. And you just adjust it to the shape that you need or want or desire. So here's the thing. The problem with all lives matter is that you're right. All lives should matter. But and however, it seems that black lives don't have the same value. And it seems like it's so easy to be just carefree with how you handle us. You want to go over that top line too, just if there's anything that you want to correct as well. And also, it really just brings it together, because that's the goal, togetherness. I'm gonna dust off whatever else has fallen, and then just reapply a little bit right underneath, because we're almost done. We're just going to add a little bit more going towards the inner corner. And you know what? We're gonna see how this goes. I'm gonna try to do a little star. If you don't want to do this, feel free to skip this step. You could do a little circle, whatever you want. I'm gonna get in a little closer because, you know, America. So basically, you know, when you were in first grade and you drew that little star shape, that's basically what I'm doing, and then just filling it in. The top of my star is that little line that's going up, you know? Whew, maybe I should not have drinking that coffee. You know, some people don't respect our right to protest. Protesting is really one of the most American things that you can do. And we are protesting for change, protesting for growth, protesting to be listened to and heard. Name me something more American than that, darling. And actually, I'm going to bring this arm of the star out too, just to open up the eye a little bit. Look at that. Ooh, sickening. And when you're doing this, you're gonna get a little bit of the white on your lashes, but that's all right. You can either put mascara on or just like cover it with some more black shadow. I'm gonna put some little dots. So I'm going to take the, like this kind of off-white shade here and just do that as my brow bone highlight. You know, just like you're doing in these makeup tutorials, and maybe not you specifically, but just like people listen to things that they want to listen to learn, you have to listen with the intent to understand. You can't just listen to the things that we are saying with the intent to have a rebuttal to them. Some of you don't want to listen, you just want to be loud and wrong. And you know what? I would say it's okay, but it's really not. It's really, really not. Ooh, this is giving me very Black Swan. I'm gonna take some of Anastasia Beverly Hills liquid liner and just go around where the lash is going to sit. That's a little flick. And then take that same little flat brush. One thing that I am noticing is that this one goes up at a little bit of a different angle than this one does. So I'm just gonna take a little bit of the concealer that I used earlier, same brush, to like shape my brows and just kind of manage it a little bit. Dust off anything that has fallen underneath. You know, I really hate to use this example because some people are really just going to take it the wrong way. But let's say you have a baby, right? And the baby is sad, it's over there in the corner just frowning. It's easier, not that you want to ignore a baby, but it's easier to ignore that baby while it's being calm and peaceful and silent than it is when that baby is throwing a full-on tantrum. And you know what? If you are ignoring that tantrum, then girl, it's deliberate. You are deliberately ignoring the tantrum. Why? Because you want to teach the baby that whatever behavior that you're demonstrating toward them or whatever situation is the situation that they have to get accustomed to. The difference is the actions and carelessness and just total disregard for Black life is not acceptable, like at all in any regard. So pretty much this is the rest of the eye look. I'm gonna finish the rest of my face and then come back. All right, this is the look, and of course, no Robin Fierce look is complete without a LashCorps lash. I love my daughter. Go over there and follow them at LashCorps. They make amazing lashes. What I also forgot to show you on the eye was my mascara. I used the Lash Brag by Anastasia Beverly Hills. So this is the final face. All the products that I used in the video will be in the description below. Also, all the products that I used off camera will also be available down there, so you can see generally what my products that I use on a day-to-day are as well. I am really living for the look. I also highlighted my ears. Shout out to my other daughter, Natalia Fierce. I got a lot of kids, okay? And final shout out, and to close out this video, shout out to all of my non-POC people and also non-Black POC people, POC meaning people of color, who support and stand with us and fight with us and amplify our voice, because not only is it important for us to have a voice, for us to be heard by other people, it is easier to hear from your own people than it is from others sometimes, and it is beyond helpful to have you guys support us as well. Now please, I am personally a person that does not mind questions, and don't make it like you need a Black dictionary, but if you have Black friends or POC friends, ask them what you can do to support the cause. Ask them how you can be a better ally. I don't think asking questions is ever a bad thing, as long as you're respectful and kind and have love in your heart when you do it. So on that note, be sickening, be fierce, stay amazingly wonderful, and be beautiful. All of my lovely internet people out there.